just want to welcome everyone on behalf of Parker Millard Funeral Service. It's an honor to be here today. If you all need anything, just please reach out to us, let us know. In just a few moments, we're going to get started with the video, and then Dave will take over leading our program today. You know, it's at times like this we need each other, but it's really in the months and weeks to come. I would just encourage everyone to keep telling stories. I know there's a lot of stories. Ben was a storyteller. So I would just, you know, make sure that we keep sharing those stories and being there for each other. Because when everybody goes home, that's when really, you know, your friend group needs you. So if you all need anything, please let us know. This time we'll have a short video.
We're just going to have some fun here for a little bit.
That's Ben Arnet, our friend and KOMU 8 sports director for the last 5 years. Ben unexpectedly died on Thursday, and it was a punch to the gut for all of those who knew him and the community who enjoyed his storytelling. He was only 43 years old.
Welcome back.
And when it comes to local sports, especially Mizzou, Ben knew it all. Dates, faces, history.
We'll take a break and come right back here to wrap up KOMU 8 News at 5.
There's history, and Ben, as a proud Hickman Cupie and Mizzou Tiger, was quick to remind everyone he was a true son.
And I was born and raised in Columbia, and
Right.
for me, you know, I'm 43 now, and we're talking about a football game, but for an entire generation of people my age, it's Norm Stewart. I mean, Norm taught us
To hate Kansas.
exactly.
Ben worked in several different markets across the country, building his resume and his family.
When I was working in Wichita, Kansas, the coolest thing I did there was meet my wife.
But in 2011, he found his way back home.
We're talking today with Ben Arnet from the Mizzou Network, SEC Network Plus. Ben, thanks for coming up from Columbia today.
No problem.
First with the Mizzou Network, then to KOMU 8 in 2020.
You and I are both Hickman grads. We grew up with Hickman Rockbridge.
He was determined to make a difference for sports fans in mid-Missouri and for the students at the Missouri School of Journalism. This photo collage showing just a handful of the careers he helped launch.
I will miss his presence, his laugh, his stories, his tweets, his advice, and everything in between. But I will make him proud and be the best damn sports journalist I can be.
That everything Ben taught me, that everything Ben taught you, we get to be an extension of his legacy. But Ben didn't die. Ben lives through us. And that makes us family.
And if there's one person who's been influenced by his love of sports,
Right, wow.
Happy holidays.
it's his daughter. Hockey was their thing. She was never far from his side and never far from his mind. From a community who spent years enjoying your storytelling, thanks, Ben.
Two mics. Good morning. My name is Dave Matter. I'm the Associate Athletics Director for Communications here at the University of Missouri. But for today's purpose, I'm a friend of Ben Arnet, like so many of you gathered here. The one thing we all have in common today is Ben touched our lives in some capacity, as a colleague, as a teacher, as a student, as a broadcaster, and of course, as a son, a brother, an uncle, a husband, and a father. No matter how you came to know Ben, no matter where your lives cross path, we thank you for being here today to celebrate and honor and remember a remarkable storyteller and a true son of this community. My first memories of Ben were of the most ambitious teenage reporter this town has ever seen, and it has seen its share. While the rest of us were learning to be professional journalists, he already carried himself with an unflappable confidence, as a high school reporter, that is. Maybe it was because he knew no one in this market would ever out-hustle him. No story was too big or too small for Ben to tackle. KMIZ, KOMU, Mizzou Network, he approached every job and every story with the same relentless pursuit. He was a Cupie, he was a Tiger, but above all else, he was from Columbia, and he was a proud Missourian. And because of those roots, Ben cared passionately about history, tradition, and the moments that bind us together as sports fans here in Columbia. As a teacher at KOMU and the journalism school, Ben taught his students to honor the past and to keep alive the spirit of what this place stands for. Ben was a storyteller ahead of his time, and of course, taken way too soon. Today, we gather not only in grief, but in gratitude for Ben's work, for his kindness, for the way he made us see ourselves and our town a little more proudly. Let us celebrate his life, his contributions, and the lasting legacy he left behind. We have three special speakers today who will share stories and memories and reflect on their relationship with Ben. We'll hear from Matt Arnet, Ben's brother, Kaylor Smith, one of Ben's former students, and Chris Trevino, one of Ben's first and most important mentors. First up, we'll hear from Matt, Ben's older brother. Matt Arnet.
All right, so this morning I have a little helper. This is Lexi. Lexi really wanted to speak at Ben's funeral, and it just wasn't the right day for her. So she's prepared some remarks she's going to get to in a little bit, tell you all about Uncle Ben and what that meant to her. I also put together a lot of remarks, and I'm going to speak from some of them, but I got some great advice from a good friend last night that sometimes you just got to be to the point and make the biggest impact that you can. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Matt, Ben's older brother. I live in Kansas, which he gave me endless shit about for years. He hated coming to my house because he had to pay for gas in Kansas, which Norm Stewart famously refused to do in all of his years as the head basketball coach here. Which made it even more ironic that he lived in Wichita, Kansas, met the love of his life, and really launched his career in the direction that it needed to always go, which is back home. You know, I thought of a lot of stories about Ben and I growing up in those early days. We were closer than I think we even realized as adults. We both committed ourselves to teaching. For those of you who don't know, I teach graduate psychology in Kansas City. I've taught percussion for 30 years, starting at Hickman and then moving into Kansas. And I also run the drum line for the Kansas City Chiefs. So another thing that Ben and I often disagreed about was who was the better team, the Buffalo Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's where I got the upper hand the last several years. You know, I think the other thing that we really have strived to do is to make an impact in our communities. Ben's through storytelling, finding ways to elevate the story that no one else could find. He did that everywhere he lived, from Tucson to Wichita, Buffalo, and back to Columbia. The stories that no one would know if it hadn't been for my brother asking the next question, finding another person to really find that nugget that really made you feel like he cared, and he did. Every single person he told a story about was a friend, and I think that many of you saw that in the work that he did, whether it was online, whether it was on KOMU, even going back to whenever he was in high school. For some of you, it might be kind of hard to believe that my brother was a very shy, somewhat anxious child. It was shocking to me when he was at Hickman and he got involved with the QPTV station there. I thought, there's no way, not my brother. Not the one who used his shirt as a napkin when he ate Cheetos. Not the one that chased me and my friends around at the lake, tried to catch fish with cheddar cheese and a goldfish net. But it was, and he was awesome at it. He was great at it immediately. He really found his passion and developed that into something that's impacted so many people here. And I want to say thank you to everyone in the room here, everyone who's reached out to our family over the last few weeks, everyone who's watching online. It has been overwhelming in a way that I can't really put into words yet. It's really difficult to lose someone like this, and we know that we have a support system that is real, that is here for us. So whether you donated to the GoFundMe to help support my niece and sister-in-law, whether you reached out, even though it's been 30 years since I've talked to you, it's appreciated. And I just want to say that this is hard, and we have to acknowledge that. My brother did lots of hard things in his life, and that's kind of become a mantra in our family, something that Lexi even has a t-shirt that says, I can do hard things. So we're going to do a hard thing together, all of us. We're going to grieve and find a way to move forward because we have to. We're going to be okay, but not today. We're going to experience joy, even if it's tinted with sadness. We'll mourn my brother. It's okay. We're going to be okay. I love you and missed you, Ben. MIC.
am Lexi. I am the daughter of Matt, and this is my speech. Ben was a great person. I miss him so much. He always had a place in my heart. He was one of the first people I bonded with. He was such a kind-hearted person. He was the kind of person who would help you with anything. We can work through this together. We can finish the project together. We can do this. I know it's hard, but we can do it. Some of my favorite things about him was his smile and his laugh, his kindness, and his personality. We have so many memories together, and one of my favorites was when we went to Nashville and when we went to a concert with him. Thank you to Nicole for letting me do this speech.
Thank you.
Good luck following that up, guys. Thank you, Matt. Next up is Kayla Smith. She's a 2022 Mizzou J School and KOMU sports graduate, one of Ben's many former students, and now a sports reporter and anchor in Dayton, Ohio.
Like Dave just said, my name's Kayla Smith. I graduated in 2022 from the journalism school and got my start working with Ben at KOMU. I'm speaking here today on behalf of myself and my former students that came back today, many of whom are a few years into our careers now, so we're really grateful you guys picked the time, especially during football season, that we all could be here to honor Ben. I want to start by wishing my deepest condolences to the Arnets and to Nicole and Lila. Lila, you were the first person that I thought of when I learned what happened. Your dad loved having you as his hockey buddy, and he loved doing that with you and loved when you pick up the sport yourself. Which reminds me, I have a question that I know Ben would want asked. We have some high-ranking folks here in the room. Can we get a damn ice rink in this town? I mean, seriously, can we put our heads together and get that going for Ben in his honor? But in all seriousness, Lila, I hope you continue to enjoy the Blues, Cardinals, and Bills just like your dad. And to Nicole and the entire Arnett family, I hope you know how deeply Ben was loved by all of us and what he meant to all of us. I'm going to share some of that now. I first met Ben shortly after he was hired at KOMU. I started doing Friday Night Fever, just like hundreds of young aspiring journalists do, including Ben 20 years ago, by the way. A true son and a product of the J School himself, Ben was the perfect person to be the predecessor to Chris Gervino because he got it. He understood the process because he lived it. And he made it his mission to pass that along to the next generations of dedicated young journalists. Ben taught us what it means to cover local sports, and his passion was contagious, and if you've talked to him, you know exactly what I mean. He laid the foundation in so many of us for those few years we got to spend under his direction, from shooting highlights to anchoring to storytelling. Ben afforded myself and my fellow students so many opportunities that he could have just taken for himself, but he wanted us to have those experiences and learn through them. One of my favorite stories I did with Ben was covering Gary Pinkel's College Football Hall of Fame induction ceremony that they did at Shakespeare's here in town. I spent hours at the station with Ben, who's a true historian of Mizzou and Mizzou sports, especially during the Gary Pinkel era, crafting a story that would capture what Pinkel meant to this university because nobody knew it better than Ben. He helped me, he encouraged me every step of the way, and it's funny because when I look back at that story now, I watch it and there's so many things I would do so differently, but he just really let me go for it. The job Ben did as a teacher is evident by how many of his former students not only landed sports jobs right out of school, but are still in the field today, some even on their second and third career moves. One of my favorite stories about Ben came at graduation of 2022. And my seniors of that class will know this one. There's a big map of the United States hanging in the sports office at KOMU with the names of alumni and arrow labels pointing to where they all landed jobs out of school. Back then, that map hadn't been updated in years, and our senior class really took issue with that. We wanted to bring it back and revive it and add our names to it, and we would talk about it every so often in the sports office throughout the school year. Fast forward to May of 2022, Ben held his annual end-of-year celebration at the Arnet House, where Nicole and Ben graciously opened their home to dozens of college kids and feed us, so thank you for that. Ben gathered us all seniors and gave us a speech about none other than Gary Pinkel. Ben worked closely with Pinkel for years when he was in the creative department at Mizzou Athletics. Ben told us one thing he learned from Pinkel was the importance of listening to your players. Pinkel would say, some things may not be important to me, but if they're important to my players, they're important to me. And then Ben went into the other room and brought back that KOMU sports map, which he had gotten framed. And he said, I never saw this as something important to me, but I know it's important to you. So it's important to me, which brought tears to several of our eyes because Ben's not much of a softie. So then we all spent some time talking about it, and we stuck our own little arrow labels with our own names on the map and took a big group photo with Ben and the map. And that's what made him special. He listened to us, and what mattered to us mattered to him. Ben and I grew pretty close during my time at KOMU, just sort of naturally, as we spent a lot of time working side by side in that tiny sports office, which I hadn't been back to in 3 years, and I didn't realize how tiny it actually is. Going back a couple weeks ago, I couldn't believe how small it felt. Didn't feel small in the moment, though. We shared a lot of the same philosophies and values professionally, and Ben was just a very real person and very easy to talk to. I came to understand just how close we were when I decided it would be a good idea to invite him to my 21st birthday party. And he accepted. It sounds weird, but I promise it wasn't. It was Mizzou's home opener in 2021. I invited him and the family out to the very fine establishment we all know as Shiloh Bar and Grill. It really, though, it was cool. It was cool. My parents were there, my grandparents, my friends' parents. And now that I say this out loud, I don't think he would appreciate me grouping him in with the old folks. But really, it meant a lot to me to have the people I love meet this person that I really looked up to and respected. But really, who brings a 6-year-old to a 21st birthday party? All kidding aside, I think those stories just show how much he really did care about his kids, and there was no one I was more excited to tell about landing my first job after graduation. Ben and I stayed in close contact, and our relationship evolved from mentor-mentee to friends. We talked daily, if not every other day, for the last 3 years about anything from our gripes to Mizzou football, coach, if you're watching, sorry, to our work woes, to Lila's latest hockey game, to my love life. Yikes. My last messages to Ben were along those lines. Not knowing something had happened yet that day, I texted Ben during Mizzou's home opener this year, quote, I'm over the Tommy Trumpet third down. Some nice parting words from me. And I think I speak for a lot of people in the room when I say that. Yes? Yes, we're over the Tommy Trumpet third down. But I think that just sums up the nature of our conversations. Ben supported me through a difficult job search that took more than a year. I started to doubt myself and if I was really cut out for this, but Ben never did. Ben always reassured me that something would work out. And I was so excited to tell him when that offer finally came through for my current role in Dayton, Ohio. Actually just went back through our messages recently and found what he said when I told him, and he said it was the best news he's heard in a long time. No one knew me, my ability, or my worth as a journalist better than Ben. He's the first person I think to reach out to when I have a new experience at work. In fact, there have been so many times in the last month that I've felt the same instinct to do just that. I think I speak for my fellow classmates when I say we never thought there would be a day that we wouldn't have Ben's guidance as we navigated through this difficult industry. The person who gave every single one of us a chance is not here to help us through that next step anymore. His current students, I know a lot of them are here today as well, I hate it for all of you guys that you don't have him to learn from. I don't say this to discount anybody else, but I truly believe Ben was the most invaluable figure at KOMU and in the J School. I quite literally would not be where I am today without him. And I hope to spend the rest of my career doing what he taught me and doing it in his honor. Although it pales in comparison to his friends and family, there is a hole in my heart where Ben left it. the teacher, the mentor, and the friend. Thank you for everything, Ben. I owe all of my success to you. We love you, we miss you, and I will never forget you.
Thank you, Kaylor. For our next guest, we owe a special debt of gratitude to the Boone County Courthouse for not having a trial today, because our next speaker did have jury duty, but fortunately he's here with us instead. He is a man who needs no introduction in this town. He's a local legend. He's a longtime Columbia sportscaster, and for today's purpose, he's a dear friend and mentor to Ben, Chris Trevino.
Thank you, Dave, and that's a true story. If I wouldn't here, I'd be sitting in court right now. Can you believe that? But I know a few people in this room who might have some pull, who might have helped me. They might have decided not to help me. But I could not believe it when, you know, you get notified of jury duty, and you have a couple weeks you can block off, and my schedule's still kind of crazy, believe it or not, even though I'm not on the news full time. And when they so I thought I had an open week. I've been careful. My folks aren't in great health, and schedule's still crazy with travel. And then came the summons for this week, which was ahead of this event scheduled. And it's like, really, the timing. And I'm just going to say it. I'm a prayerful person, and I pray every day. And I've told some people this. I was praying all the way along that I would be here to hopefully honor Ben. And I believe in God. He made this happen. Not for me, but for Ben. So it's just unbelievable that it worked out. I mean, every day, 4:02. I gave him 2 minutes. You got to call after 4 o'clock. And boy, I was happy yesterday. So I've known Ben for a long, long time. I would first see him at Mass Sunday mornings with his parents over at the Newman Center on campus years ago when he was a little kid. And he then spent his junior high career day with me, job shadowing just a few years ago at KMIZ. And then, okay, more than a few years ago, I hear the chuckles in the second row. I know who you are. And then, of course, as a student at Hickman High School, he interned with me at KMIZ. Then I ended up at KOMU, and he came through our program at Channel 8. So I've spent a lot of time with him, probably more so than any student. And I've been blessed to have you know, just worked with hundreds of students, literally 21 years at Channel 8, and had a lot more as interns at KMIZ for 11 years before that, and that's been a real joy, satisfaction, I guess, in my life that I never expected getting into this business, that I could meet and work with so many young, you know, students who have now gone on to bigger and better things, many of them than I've ever done, but it's great for me because I feel very special to have been with them and known them. And I will tell you also, I've said this to a few people, any help I may have given Ben, that's great, and I'm happy for, but I think the most important thing that I felt from my angle in our relationship was when he asked me as a teenager to be his confirmation sponsor in the Catholic faith. I mean, how special is that for me? So hopefully I helped a little bit in that area, but I know that really meant a lot to me. I don't know that there's anything, you know, more important you can do for a person than help them develop their faith at a young age. So I hope I did that in addition to all the broadcast stuff and classes and meetings. But, you know, he was such a talented guy and so hardworking from day one. He was serious about what he did. He wanted to do well. He had a passion and a drive. And I'd say Ben's the type of guy that would go the extra mile for you, but that's not true. He'd go the extra hundreds of miles for you. And thinking of him so much in our days together, so many days, one story among others stood out to me. 2004, Channel 8, Missouri's playing basketball at Michigan in the NIT at the end of the season. Well, March is spring break, so it was either right before or during spring break in late March when the tournament is, and Ben volunteers to drive on his own to Ann Arbor, Michigan to cover the NIT game. I would never have asked him or expected him to do that, but by golly, he did. On his own, got there, of course, did a great job covering the game, even in a difficult 65-64 loss, as I recall, that ended the season. But that's the type of guy he was. And not only did he drive that far on his own, but think about this. He drives there and back hundreds of miles. And I just got to tell you, when he got there, I'm pretty confident he wasn't staying at the Ritz-Carlton in Ann Arbor. I'm just saying, we didn't have an unlimited budget at Channel 8 back in those days in sports, but Ben took it upon himself to volunteer to drive on his own to Michigan for a weeknight game around or during spring break. So you can kind of tell early this guy wants it badly. And after graduation, he soon got his first job in Tucson, Arizona. What a great start. I mean, just go right to that market, right out of the gate. And then moves to Wichita, Kansas, which had to be the best move of his life, of course, meeting Nicole there, his wife. And then he goes on to Buffalo, New York. So he was moving onward and upward at a really rapid pace. And I'm telling you, I think he could have worked anywhere in the country if he wanted to. I really believe that he was that talented, that hardworking, and you look at how far he had gone in just a few years in his career. But, he wanted to come home. He wanted to come home to Columbia, where he graduated from Hickman and Mizzou. He loves Mizzou. And I know where he got that from, Bill and Judy. Bill, of course, a longtime attorney for the university, so well known for his hard work and his good work. And he and Judy have a Mizzou flag flying outside their home, and have for a while. And I trust it'll continue to fly high and proudly. So this is where he needed to be, and I'm so glad selfishly he came back, and you could just see him happily working at the university, his school, his alma mater, right, in the athletic department, and then coming back to Channel 8 with us. The last time I saw Ben was right before the season opener when we had that segment about the Kansas game, and he had myself, along with John Anderson, ESPN fame, and of course Jim Reek, KOMU legend of KOMU stardom. And, Jim was with Ben every bit as long as I was. And Jim loves Ben. And I know Ben looked up to Jim and loved Ben quite a bit. Loved Jim quite a bit. And who doesn't love Jim? So it's understandable. But he had some great people around him. I was lucky, really blessed to be with him. And but that last day, I remember sitting there as we were telling stories, of course, about the Missouri-Kansas rivalry. It's about time it's back. Isn't it great? And we all knew a little bit about the history. And I was sitting across from Ben, and I, honest to God, I vividly remember thinking, he looks so happy right now. And to me, knowing him for as long as I have, I thought, he seems so proud of this project, of getting the guys out there and talking, and he was just really looking forward to that game. And, that's the last time I saw him. But I know, as you all do, as that game came along, there was the rally cry, "Win it for Ben." And, of course, the Tigers did. They beat the Jayhawks. And I know how happy Ben would have been about that. So he accomplished so much at a young age. I mean, 43. It's unbelievable what he did in his career. And I'll just tell you, I think more importantly is what he accomplished away from television, which is so much more important, his family life, right? As a son, as a husband, as a father. I mean, I always would ask Ben whenever I'd see him, because I'd see him a lot, in passing, certainly over the years through work at press conferences and games, and I'd always say, "How are you folks doing?" And I asked him that the day we recorded that Kansas segment off the air, obviously. I said, "How are you folks doing? I haven't seen them in a while." And he said, "They're doing well. They're traveling all the time." Everywhere. Here, there, and everywhere. They're world travelers. I thought that's pretty cool. And he seemed so happy for you guys that you were getting out and about and healthy and well enough to travel. And he told me that. Of course, I asked about Nicole. And his face would just light up, And he was just so proud, I think that's the right word, of their marriage and their love. And he loved her so much. And she was just such a great support for him. And, I got to just tell you this. He comes back to Columbia, and of course he's married now, and I meet Nicole, and I'm thinking, okay, here's this young guy, Ben, that I knew for years and maybe had a little bit of a say in guiding him along his career path. He didn't need much help. And hopefully I helped him a little bit with his faith formation, because that, to me at least, was really important. And yet here he comes back. He's 15 years younger than me, and he's married, and I'm still trying to figure that part of life out. I mean, seriously, he could have been my mentor in marriage. Now, I got there eventually, better late than never, and, you know, he was so happy for me, and I believe he was, for once, proud of me, right, as I've been so proud of him for so many ways over so many years. So that was pretty cool. But, and Nicole, the fact that you are seeming to me so immersed in Mizzou is really cool. I wonder where you got that start or who sent you that direction. But I think it's really awesome, especially on homecoming week, that here she is working in the Alumni Association, right, for the last 8 years. And she's with a great guy, Todd McCubbin there. He runs the Alumni Association. And I'm just going to say, I got to tell you, Todd is another former intern of ours at KMIZ and someone I'm really proud of. I mean, he is a good man. And you talk about, and you know this better than me now, lately, but you talk about someone who look out for you and be a support system to you, he and the people there. The whole team. And I don't know all of you, probably know a lot of you, but this guy is special, and I've known him for a long time. I'm just taking the liberty of saying that because I met him at a young age. So you're in good hands given the circumstances. I hope you know that. But you made Ben very happy. And speaking of happiness, Lila, the pride and joy of Ben's life, without a doubt, Lila, who is beautiful sitting here in the front row. And I would always ask Ben about Lila, again, right up till the last time I saw him. 2 questions, because as reporters, right, we always have a follow-up question. First question, how's Lila? Second question, what does she think of her St. Louis Blues? Because she was a big fan. I know that's a special bond they had, season tickets. And I would ask Ben, what's the last game you've been to? What's the next game you're going to? Who'd you see the Blues play? Who are you going to see the Blues play? And Lila is not only a hockey fan, but a hockey player. I mean, your dad loved that about you. It is so cool. It is really awesome. And I hope, and I'm sure you're going to keep playing hockey and following hockey, and your mom tells me you're going to keep going to the games with those season tickets. And that is the way to go. He was very proud of you. He cherished you very much. And I think that's, you know, what I would just say. We have to cherish our memories with Ben, certainly. You know, and be thankful for the time we did have with Ben. You know, every single day we have with each other is a gift. Every single day we have with each other is a gift. I believe that so much. And going forward, we'll carry Ben, you know, in our minds and our hearts, certainly. His memory lives on with us. His spirit clearly will live on with Nicole and Lila, through them. He's been too much a part of their life, right? He's so important and so meaningful. So, you know, we have to carry him forward. And I think the best way to honor Ben is to continue to certainly support and love his family and sustain them and sustain each other as well. You know, I thank you very much for inviting me to speak. It's a great honor for me. It really is. So thank you. And thank all of you. I mean, what a turnout this is. Thank you for being here and supporting Ben and his family and really just showing your love for our friend Ben. So thanks a lot.
Chris, you're pretty good at talking. Big crowds. Thank you, Chris. Now I ask everyone, please turn your attention to the screen for a special video.
The rivalry is back, Missouri and Kansas on the football field, and I got some friends to come out and talk about it. There might be an opinion or two in this group. We got the class of 87 and 88 holding it down here, Chris Trevino, John Anderson, and the former Mizzou football player from the mid-'70s, and KOMU news anchor Jim Reek. We're just gonna have some fun here for a little bit. Now, the first rule of sports journalism is usually you don't say us and we, right? We don't say us and we. We're not. That's okay. It might happen. We're just gonna go with it. I want to start out with everybody's favorite non-2007, because we'll talk about that plenty, what's your favorite, maybe under-the-radar MU-KU football game? Jim, let's start with you.
Yeah, my best memory, other than 2007, would be 1969, a shellacking 69-21.
And the quote, I believe, from the great Bob Bragg of the St. Louis Post was, the Kansas flashed the Mizzou sideline, the peace sign, and they returned half of it. I'll let you figure out which half, the half a peace sign.
It wasn't we're number one.
Right, it's the internet, but I'm not gonna do it. John?
2002 was great. To be there, be part of homecoming, be Grand Marshal, do all that stuff, and then to borrow from Jim, to shellac Kansas because they beat them bad that day. 2002 was a good year.
I like that game too because that was the first KU win of the Gary Pinkel era. You mentioned that Brad Smith had a big game, and I've told Brad this many times. Like, to me, without Brad Smith and what those teams did, none of this happens.
I love Chase, and he's probably the finest quarterback we've had, but I don't know that he's the most important quarterback we've ever had. I think that's Brad Smith.
I always say Brad turned it around, and then Chase took it to the next level.
They needed somebody who could, for a program that needed somebody to put the whole program on their back, Brad was that guy, and he was capable of doing that the way he played the position. But let's get your favorite under-the-radar MU.
There are tough memories. Kerry Meyer in the snow on 4th down at Arrowhead the next year in 08, and Tony Sands, 58 carries, still an NCAA record. 58.
For 396.
For not that we remember that.
In a game, they won by 24 points.
Right.
So if you want to know what the rivalry is about and kind of the bitterness and the pettiness,
53-29.
pumped it to them 58 times.
I hope this was productive.
Productive?
I think it was.
It was fun.
Right. Was the goal productive? Good.
Bring the bar down a little bit.
It's the internet.
Yeah.
It was productive for the internet. We hope you enjoyed it as we get the rivalry renewed with some good old friends.
Peace.
You both think
All right, we'll fade to black somewhere in there.
Glad those guys, Jim and John and Chris, that you got to experience that with Ben. A lot of people we've mentioned today in the audience, I want to give a special recognition to another dear friend of Ben's, a friend of mine, colleague, is Stan Sylvie. I had the unfortunate timing to crush Stan's heart and share the news as it circulated around the stadium back on the 28th. And he came to me with his instinct was to say, let's just get through the day. And I don't give good advice on these things, but that's the best advice I can give to you guys is just let's just get through the day, today, and then tomorrow. And Stan, I'll never forget when you said that because I think we can carry that over in so many moments, but especially this one. And we got through that day, and then we got through the next day, and we're still getting through them. I think today is a beautiful reminder of how important community is, how compassionate our community is here in mid-Missouri. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes a tremendous loss for us to understand how much one person means to an entire place. But we're reminded of that today in those amazing words from Matt and Lexi and Kayla and Chris. For Nicole and Lila, Bill and Judy and the entire Arnet family, please know this community is here to support you in your time of immense grief. Your son, your husband, and your dad love this town. Now it's our job to share that love right back. So on behalf of Mizzou Athletics, Ben's KOMU family, and the Arnet family, thank you for being here today to honor and remember Ben, a true son of Mizzou and of Columbia, Missouri. The family would like to invite everyone to refreshments out here when we're done, but that concludes today's program. Thank you all for being here. MIZ.